Hello and thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Thursday, January 13th edition of our video devotionals. Thank you so much for joining us. And we call this Trusting Thursday. So we trusted the Lord with our salvation. Thus, we trust Him every day with our everyday life and the events. And let's just keep that mindset today. And hopefully your day's going well here. It's a pretty decent weather day. It's a little bit overcast, but they are forecasting some pretty intense weather, winter weather coming in for us. We'll see how that plays out. Sometimes these storms, they track a little bit further south or north, and we don't get what they say we're going to get. But at this time, they're calling for some snow and ice and high winds. We'll see how that goes, and we'll just wait because the forecast changes just a little bit every time you see it, the temperatures and all of that. So we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, hopefully your day's going well. Hopefully you're safe and healthy and doing the best you can. And if you are sick, there are some little basic things you can do to help yourself even when you're sick, but before the vitamins and taking things help your immunity be built up. So all these things our grandparents and parents and some of the old timers told us growing up, those things still work for our bodies just to make sure they're as healthy as they can be, even if you do get viruses and different things. Anyway, so we are reading through the Bible today. Genesis 45:5 is going to be the verse. I'm just going to quote a portion of that verse, but we're going to give you something today I think will be able to help you. So again, thank you for all who watch. Appreciate all comments, any acknowledgments at all. We appreciate that. We've got some, they just give a thumbs up, and I like that. That tells me, hey, you heard it, you're listening, and you're trying to encourage me, and I appreciate it. So let's go ahead and jump into this. At this point in the story, Joseph has just revealed himself to his brothers. You can imagine the shock and even the horror that would come upon them knowing what they did. And of course, Joseph is trying to tell them, look, everything's okay from my standpoint. And here's what he said in verse 5 there. He said, be not grieved or angry with yourselves that ye have sold me thither, it says. Of course, they sold him into Egypt. He says, for God did send me before you to preserve life. For God did send me before you to preserve life. And isn't that interesting from Joseph's perspective, how he can look back even on a little bit and just say, you know what, God was in this, even though what you did was a horrible thing to do and it was bad. You shouldn't have done it, but because it was done, God was looking ahead, and because the famine at this point is like 2 years in the process, and there'll be another 5 years. And of course, what ends up happening is Joseph is really commanded by Pharaoh to go get the rest of his family, his father, and all that's left there in Canaan, and bring them back in Egypt. Of course, we know that happens. But we do know that because of Joseph's interpreting of Pharaoh's dream and all that it would mean, and Pharaoh placing Joseph in the position where all those 7 years of plenty could store up for that, and then the world is basically going to be brought to their knees because of this famine. And Joseph's kind of in charge of making sure everything's delved out like it should be, and in a way so that it would not run out and people literally would just starve. So the fact is, though, that God will use things in your life so that you and I will be a blessing, to be a help, in some cases even have somebody's life or their something in their life saved, so that there's not destruction, so that there's not maybe further hardship. So in this case, Joseph's family was saved because they will be brought into Egypt. And Joseph, of course, is going to make sure that if anybody's taking care of his family, and particularly his father. But all that to say, in your life, when you see some things happen that look like they're downturns and they look like they're negatives, I'm just like you. I look at that and I always go, man, what in the world is happening, and why now, and why me? And but you know what? God could be using something that somewhere down the line, and sometimes it's a little bit further down the line than you and I uh, could even imagine. In this case, it was years. Joseph was 17 years old when the events happened that he was sold in Egypt. He becomes basically Pharaoh's, second in charge at the age of 30. So, you're talking 13 years. A portion of that time, of course, he was in prison. So all that to say, here he is now. He's in the position to literally save the world, so to speak, and God has used him. But how did he get there, though? Well, he's betrayed by his brothers. He's betrayed into prison, and that event where he interprets the butler and the baker's dream, and of course the baker he's executed, but the butler he's saved, and he dreamed a dream, and Joseph told him what it was. But one of the things that Joseph said to the butler was, Hey, remember me. Kind of speak before Pharaoh. Tell him about me. But you know what happened? The butler forgets. And he's just living his life. And then all of a sudden, Pharaoh has a dream. And then all of a sudden, the butler says, oh, wait a minute here. I know somebody in prison, a Hebrew, that helped me. Maybe he can help you. Isn't it interesting? So you say, man, just how come it kind of depends on little things like that, and yet God is behind all these things. All that to say, when life is having things happen to you, and God is trying to do things through you, don't be surprised if something happens that God's using that you and I would say, man, that's a negative event. But God says, no, it may be, but I'm going to use it to some greater good. And so just remember that today. So hope you have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow on Friday. And Fateful Friday, as we call it. Hope you have a great day. Be careful today and try to stay as well as you can. And we'll see you tomorrow.